Alright, listen, before we even get into the meat of today's breakdown, let me say this up front. If you're into crypto, if you've been sitting on the sidelines wondering what project could actually matter long-term, and you haven't looked into XLM yet, you're leaving a major piece of the future off your radar. Now, I know what some people are thinking, oh, Stellar? Isn't that the coin that's been around forever but never really mooned like some others? And yeah, that's fair. It's not flashy like meme coins. It doesn't get the hype headlines like Bitcoin or Ethereum. But here's the thing most people miss. Stellar was never built to be hype. Stellar was built to solve one of the most real, everyday problems on the planet, moving money across borders. We're talking about a blockchain network designed from day one to make remittances cheap, fast, and accessible to literally anyone with a phone. You and I both know how expensive, slow, and outdated the global payment system is. Western Union, SWIFT, all of that. XLM is designed to tear through those barriers and do it at lightning speed for a fraction of the cost. And here's the kicker. It's not just a dream on paper. Stellar already has partnerships with big players like MoneyGram, is working closely with governments exploring CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and is fully aligned with ISO 20022, which is basically the new universal language for global payments. In plain English, when the financial world upgrades its rails, Stellar is already sitting in the right room. So when I urge you to really pay attention to XLM right now, it's not because I think it's going to pull some random 100x overnight. It's because this project has the kind of infrastructure, utility, and global alignment that most people only realize years too late. And if you stick with me through this video, we're going to unpack it all, the technology, the partnerships, the real-world use cases, what makes XLM different from the noise, and yes, the long-term outlook. By the end of this, you'll see why a lot of people who actually study fundamentals keep XLM on their radar, even if it doesn't trend on Twitter every week. So, grab a seat, stay locked in, and let's dig into Stellar Lumens, because the next wave of global finance might already be moving on rails that this project laid years ago. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit, because to really understand why Stellar is different, you've got to know where it came from. Most people who get into crypto know the big names. Bitcoin as the OG, Ethereum as the smart contract giant. But Stellar? Stellar came from a very specific problem and, honestly, from a very human story. Stellar was founded back in 2014 by Jed McCaleb, who, fun fact, was also one of the co-founders of Ripple, XRP. And here's where it gets interesting. Jed saw both the strengths and the limitations of Ripple. Ripple was great for banks, institutions, and high-level settlement. But he wanted something that went further, something for the people. He wanted to create a blockchain that could move money not just between banks or big financial entities, but between everyday people across borders, especially in underserved parts of the world where banking access is weak or non-existent. That's where Stellar comes in. Think about it. Over 1 billion people worldwide are still unbanked. They don't have access to a savings account, they can't get a credit card, they're cut off from the global financial system. And yet, almost all of them have access to a smartphone. Stellar was built to bridge that gap. A global payment layer where anyone can send and receive value, instantly, cheaply, without needing to rely on a legacy bank. And the cool thing? Stellar didn't just pop up as another white paper coin. From the jump, they aligned themselves with some of the biggest NGOs and organizations that actually care about financial inclusion. For example, the Stellar Development Foundation, SDF. The nonprofit behind Stellar has worked with groups like the United Nations and NGOs across the globe to test and deploy real-world payment solutions. Here's the kicker. While a lot of crypto projects spend years chasing hype, Stellar has always stayed in its lane. It doesn't try to be everything. It doesn't care about being the flashy DeFi playground or the hot NFT chain. Instead, it's laser-focused on one mission: building a decentralized payment network that's fast, cheap, and accessible to everyone. And if you look at the vision statement from the Stellar team, it's actually super simple: creating equitable access to the global financial system. Now, let me pause here because this is where people either get it or they don't. If you're in crypto just looking for the next meme coin moonshot, Stellar probably feels boring. But if you're in crypto because you believe blockchain is about solving real-world problems, like actually fixing the broken money system, then Stellar is one of the most important projects to keep an eye on. And think about this for a second. In 2025, we're living in a world where CBDCs are no longer just theory. Countries like China, Nigeria, the Bahamas, and more have already launched digital currencies. The European Union is testing the digital euro, and the US Federal Reserve has been piloting different models. Guess which blockchain keeps coming up in those conversations? Yep, Stellar. Why? Because Stellar's design, fast, interoperable, global, makes it the perfect infrastructure for central banks who want to roll out digital currencies that can actually move across borders. So the vision of Stellar wasn't just some niche dream cooked up a decade ago. It was foresight. It was building the rails before the train even existed. And now that the world is finally catching up to the idea of programmable digital money, Stellar is positioned exactly where it needs to be. Alright, so now that we know where Stellar came from and why it exists, let's peel back the layers and look at the actual tech. Because here's the thing. Every blockchain out there says it's fast, cheap, and scalable. You've heard it all before. But Stellar's not just flexing buzzwords, its tech was designed from the ground up to do one thing really, really well: move value across the globe instantly. So how does it do that? At the heart of Stellar is something called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, SCP. Now before your eyes glaze over, don't worry, we're not going full computer science mode here. Let me break it down in plain English. Most blockchains use either proof of work, like Bitcoin, or proof of stake, like Ethereum after the merge. Stellar said, nah, we'll do it differently. Instead of wasting massive energy on mining or locking up coins, Stellar runs on this consensus mechanism that's fast, lightweight, and secure. Here's the gist. On Stellar, transactions are confirmed in about 3 to 5 seconds. That's it. No waiting for 10 minutes like Bitcoin, no worrying about clogged gas fees like Ethereum during peak hours. Stellar is optimized for speed and cost efficiency. And speaking of cost, the average transaction fee on Stellar is literally a fraction of a cent. We're talking $0.0000 something. It's so low that it's almost free. And that's not an accident. That's intentional, because if you're building a payment network for the unbanked, you can't expect someone in rural Africa or Southeast Asia to pay $20 in fees just to send $5 to a family member. Now here's another cool part. Stellar doesn't just move its native token, XLM. It's actually a multi-asset network. That means you can issue digital representations of any currency or asset on Stellar. Dollars, euros, pesos, even commodities or tokenized assets. They can all exist and be exchanged on Stellar's network. This is huge. Why? Because it means Stellar isn't just a crypto coin. It's a bridge for all forms of money. Imagine being able to swap Nigerian naira for US dollars instantly, without going through 3 middlemen and losing money on conversion rates. That's exactly what Stellar enables. And the way Stellar pulls this off is through something called anchors. Anchors are trusted entities that connect the Stellar network to traditional financial systems. Think of them like on-off ramps. They issue digital tokens on Stellar that are backed 1:1 by real-world assets. For example, if an anchor issues USD tokens on Stellar, those tokens are actually backed by dollars sitting in a bank account. That's how Stellar keeps things grounded in reality while still running on a blockchain. But here's where it gets really powerful. Stellar has a built-in decentralized exchange, DEX. Yeah, that's right. While a lot of blockchains had to bolt on DeFi later, Stellar was born with it. You can trade assets directly on the Stellar ledger, instantly, with no need for a centralized exchange. It's like the network itself is the marketplace. And let's not forget about scalability. This is one of the reasons central banks and enterprises keep an eye on Stellar. The network is built to handle thousands of transactions per second without breaking a sweat. Compare that to Bitcoin's 7 TPS or Ethereum's 15 before scaling solutions, and you start to see why Stellar is attractive for real-world payments. So when you zoom out, the tech story of Stellar is simple but powerful. Fast. Transactions in seconds. Cheap. Fractions of a cent per transaction. Global. Multi-asset support with anchors. Accessible. Runs on lightweight infrastructure, so it's usable even in developing regions. And here's the kicker. All of this is designed with the end user in mind. This isn't a playground for Deegans chasing 1000% APY. It's not a gas war casino. It's built to be invisible, frictionless, and actually useful to people who just want to send money, get paid, or trade value without the headaches of the current system. So if you're looking at Stellar in 2025 and asking, what makes this thing stand out in a crowded crypto space? The answer is simple. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's building the rails for the future of money. All right, let's be real. Every time you talk about Stellar XLM, someone's going to say, wait, isn't that just Ripple XRP, but with a different logo? Or they'll ask, why not just use Ethereum? That's the natural reaction, because the crypto world is crowded with projects claiming to solve payments. So, let's break down how Stellar stacks up against its closest rivals, and whether it actually has an edge. Stellar versus Ripple XRP. This is the classic matchup. And honestly, it makes sense because Stellar and Ripple share the same origin story. Jed McCaleb, one of Ripple's co-founders, left Ripple and went on to build Stellar. So yeah, they're like siblings who took different paths in life. Ripple's focus. Ripple is laser-focused on big banks, large financial institutions, and moving huge sums of money across borders. Their mission is basically to be the back-end infrastructure for global finance at scale. Stellar's focus. Stellar, on the other hand, is about financial inclusion. It wants to help the average person, the unbanked, the small business owner, and everyday remittances. The difference is scale versus accessibility. Ripple is for big money. Stellar is for everyone else. That makes them competitors, yes, but in a way, they're solving slightly different problems. Ripple's like the private jet for banks. Stellar is like affordable air travel for the masses. Stellar versus Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is a beast. It's the second largest blockchain after Bitcoin, and it's the go-to platform for DeFi, NFTs, and smart contracts. But when it comes to payments, that's where Ethereum has a problem. Ethereum's strengths. Extremely flexible. You can build anything on it. DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, the whole 9 yards. Ethereum weaknesses. It's still expensive and sometimes slow compared to specialized blockchains like Stellar. Even with scaling solutions and upgrades, Ethereum fees can eat small transactions alive. Stellar doesn't try to be everything. It's specialized. Payments and transfers, fast and cheap. Think of Ethereum as a massive city with skyscrapers, nightlife, and traffic jams. Stellar is like a sleek highway designed just for money to move from point A to B without congestion. Stellar versus stablecoins. Here's a twist. Stellar doesn't just compete with other blockchains, it also competes with stablecoins like USDT and USDC. Why? Because a lot of people use stablecoins for the exact same thing, moving money quickly and cheaply. But here's the advantage. Stellar can actually host stablecoins. Instead of being left behind, Stellar provides the infrastructure. In fact, some stablecoins are already integrated into the Stellar network, which means instead of competing, Stellar is absorbing them into its ecosystem. Stellar versus new-gen blockchains, Solana, Algorand, HBAR, etc. Every year a new chain shows up and says, we're faster, cheaper, better. And sure, some of them are. But here's the catch. Most of them are still in their adoption phase. They're proving tech, but not always proving real-world use. Stellar's edge is that it's been around for almost a decade, survived market cycles, and already has real partnerships. In crypto, longevity counts. Flashy tech is cool, but if no one's using it, it's just hype. Stellar has both solid tech and actual adoption. The big picture. So, does Stellar have competition? Absolutely. Ripple, Ethereum, stablecoins, Solana, Algorand, you name it. But Stellar has carved out a niche that's hard to replicate, being the blockchain for the everyday person and underserved communities. And let's be real, that niche is massive. Billions of people worldwide still lack proper banking. If Stellar captures even a fraction of that, it's playing in one of the biggest untapped markets on the planet. At the end of the day, Stellar doesn't need to beat Ripple or Ethereum. It just needs to keep doing what it does best. Cheap, fast, accessible payments for real people. That's its competitive edge. Looking ahead, Stellar's trajectory depends on one thing above all: adoption. Technology-wise, it has already proven itself. It's fast, cheap, secure, and decentralized enough to power global payments. But the next big question is, who will use it at scale? The remittance market opportunity. The global remittance market is valued in the hundreds of billions every year. Millions of migrant workers send money back home, and the fees they pay are often outrageous. Stellar's infrastructure is tailor-made for this problem, moving small amounts of money instantly without middlemen at almost no cost. If Stellar becomes the backbone for just a fraction of this market, that's a game changer. Partnerships and institutional adoption. Stellar has already worked with major organizations like IBM and the United Nations, as well as central banks exploring digital currencies. These are not speculative, maybe someday partnerships. They've been tested in the real world. Going forward, the next big leap could be governments or financial giants embracing Stellar as the infrastructure for cross-border settlements or CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. That level of adoption would cement Stellar's place in the global financial system. The role of regulation. One factor that can't be ignored is regulation. The crypto space is maturing, and regulators around the world are setting clearer rules. This could actually work in Stellar's favor. Why? Because Stellar's entire brand is about compliance and transparency, while still being open source and decentralized. It's already built to align with regulators rather than fight them. That gives it a potential edge over more controversial projects. Technology evolution. Even though Stellar is laser-focused on payments, it's not standing still. Developers are continually improving scalability, interoperability, and features like token issuance. This ensures that Stellar stays relevant as the crypto industry evolves and doesn't get left behind by newer blockchains. The human element. At the core of Stellar's vision is something that gets overlooked in crypto. The human element. Billions of people still live without access to fair and affordable financial services. Stellar's focus on financial inclusion isn't just a mission statement. It's a market opportunity that directly aligns with the real needs of people worldwide. That's what could drive long-term adoption. The road ahead for Stellar. Stellar XLM isn't trying to be everything. It's not competing to dominate DeFi or NFTs or every niche that blockchains can touch. Instead, it's taking a focused, disciplined approach. Be the most efficient and accessible network for moving money. That simplicity is its strength. It's why Stellar has endured in an industry where hype comes and goes. It has carved out a role in the competitive crypto landscape by focusing on accessibility, inclusion, and utility. Will Stellar dominate the future of global payments? No one can say with certainty. But here's what's clear. It's built the foundation, it's solving a real problem, and it's positioned in one of the most lucrative and impactful markets in the world. That gives it a fighting chance not just to survive, but to thrive as crypto adoption accelerates. If you've made it this far, you can see the bigger picture. Stellar isn't just another coin in the market. It's an infrastructure project with real-world use cases and long-term potential. Whether you're a crypto enthusiast, an investor, or someone curious about financial inclusion, now is the time to watch Stellar closely, engage with its ecosystem, and stay informed. Because in the future of global finance, the networks that serve the most people, not just the wealthiest, will be the ones that leave a lasting mark. And Stellar is building to be exactly that.